Hello everyone, my name is Loco, and as you probably know, I play a lot of video games. I upload 7 days a week to this YouTube channel, and I also stream Monday through Saturday on Twitch. Now, up until a couple of days ago, I was really only capable of doing so from this room that I'm in right now. However, then this arrived. This is the Predator Triton 700, and it's a beast of a laptop. The amount of power in this thing is really quite remarkable. Now, thanks to Predator Gaming for providing this laptop and for sponsoring this video. Now, most days I get to make videos from home. However, the thing is that whenever I go to a gaming event, and I do travel quite a bit, the days and the weeks leading up to such events is usually quite stressful, because as soon as I leave the house, I am no longer capable of making video content. Now, I've tried making videos on my old laptop, and I've tried shooting video on my phone, but it never really is much of a smooth experience. With this laptop, however, I am now capable of playing games as well as producing video content while on the go. Unboxing and setup of the laptop is very straightforward. It's very well packaged with lots of Predator logos everywhere, in case you forgot. Lots of boxes inside of boxes, and pretty much what you would expect from a high-end laptop. You get a cool badge that makes you part of the Predator Club and all other necessities, like for example the charging brick. So let's talk about specs. Now, since I'm a nerd, this is what gets me excited, okay? So the CPU is an i7-7700HQ at 2.8 GHz that can boost up to 3.8. It's running an NVIDIA GTX 1080, and there is 32 GB of DDR4 RAM. There are two 256GB NVMe SSD drives in RAID for a total of 512 GB of storage. Those are some very high-end specs for a machine that is just under 19mm thick. Now, usually when I think of a gaming laptop, I think of a very heavy, tough to carry around machine. However, look at this thing. It's just under 2 centimeters thick. So let's talk a little bit more about the different components. First off, the screen. Now, as most hardcore gamers know, frame rate is more important than resolution. And when I first learned that this is a 3,000 euro laptop and it's running a display that is a 1920 by 1080 resolution, I was a little hesitant. However, this screen runs at 120 Hz. That's a refresh rate that is twice as high as most conventional monitors. I'm actually glad that they decided to stick to 1080p over anything higher, just because this means that the graphics card needs to push less pixels and therefore can work more on frame rate instead. The screen gets very bright, it's got solid viewing angles, and I've got no complaints whatsoever, although I would have liked it if the bezels were a little slimmer. Now, while I don't typically play a lot of games that are super graphically intensive, I did try out a few. My favorite game, Starcraft 2, runs at a smooth 120 FPS on extreme graphics in a full 1 versus 1 match. With newer titles, like for example Jurassic World Evolution, the graphics card has no trouble whatsoever keeping up. Gaming performance is exactly what you would expect from this level of hardware. For video editing, I use Adobe Premiere. Now, editing on a 1080p 60 timeline is no problem whatsoever. Playback at half resolution is smooth and render times are surprisingly low. While it maybe is not quite as powerful as my main PC, I can easily record, play games, and edit while on the go. Now, something a little more controversial, and you may have already noticed this, is the positioning of the touchpad. Instead of it being near the bottom, it's above the keyboard. It's covered with Gorilla Glass and it's very smooth to the touch and also very responsive. Now, personally, after using trackpads near the bottom of laptops for a very long time, I personally haven't quite gotten used to this yet over the last couple of days. There's no tactile feedback on the touchpad either, so at least while gaming, I do recommend you plug in a mouse. Another downside of this positioning is that since the heat pipes of the laptop are right underneath the touchpad, it does get quite warm during gaming sessions in particular. I do feel like this is mostly personal preference, and I do think I'll probably get used to it over time. Now, something cool is that if you look closely at the touchpad, you can see through it and you can see some of the cooling fans and LEDs. A nice touch. Now let's talk about that keyboard. In short, it's great. Super clicky keys with enough travel distance to actually make you feel like you've pressed the key. There are a ton of different options when it comes to the RGB lighting, but I think out of all laptops I've ever tried, these keys right here are definitely my favorite. It's really solid. Now, battery life, in particular when you're gaming, is not going to be amazing just because of the amount of horsepower that this machine has to push. Since this laptop does have some insane horsepower, and since you are refreshing the screen 120 times a second, there's no denying that most of the time you will need to bring a charger if you are planning to do a longer gaming session. And while the touchpad does get a little hot during gaming, I actually found the machine itself to run rather cool. When maxing it out, I had a hard time pushing it over 70 degrees Celsius at room temperature, which is really very impressive. So that's pretty much it. Now, I have to say, I am really quite impressed with the amount of performance they managed to put in such a small machine, because I mean, personally, I'm gonna be bringing the charger with me anyway, and whenever I'm gaming, I'm gonna plug in a mouse anyway. So the downsides aren't really that important, and right now I've got a machine that I can use for making video content, playing games, and live streaming while on the go, which, you know, for me is just really, really exciting. Now, these are my initial impressions of this laptop. I don't make a lot of tech videos on YouTube usually, so I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you have any feedback on how I can improve those in the future, I am more than interested. Let me know down below the like button in the comment section of the video, and I will make sure to keep an eye out. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you in the next one.